Hey everyone, we are the Group D and our topic was all about the Japan's economy. The economy of Japan is a highly developed free market country. Japan was the third largest nominal GDP in the world and the fourth largest purchasing of PPP. The GDP, PPP, HDI will be tackled by the next reporters. Thank you.
Gross Domestic Product of Japan. In 2022, the gross domestic product of Japan amounted to 5.5 trillion US dollars. This makes Japan third in the world GDP ranking. For the comparison, the GDP of China had amounted to 8.39 trillion in 2012 marking the second largest economy in the world. Gross domestic product of Japan has one of the highest domestic products per capita. Japan is the lowest inflation rates and ranks among the top 3 countries in terms of the largest of overall GDP. This economic powerhouse has managed to maintain control of its inflation rate, keeping it below 3% since at least 2004. Despite the worldwide recession in 2008 and 2009 and in the dip in the growth the rate of the GDP, Japan managed to maintain positive growth in the GDP itself.
Hi everyone, let me discuss to you the PPP or the purchasing power parity in Japan. So it means like the measurement of prices in different countries. It uses the prices of specific goods to compare the absolute purchasing power of the countries, currencies, and to some extent their people's living standard. So the gross domestic product per capita in Japan was last recorded at 4,138.09 US dollars in 2019. When adjusted by purchasing PPP or the purchasing power parity, the GDP per capita in Japan, when adjusted by purchasing power parity, is equivalent to 233% of the world average. So we can see here in the graph, in 2020, the PPP of Japan increased compared to the previous years.
The Human Development Index for Japan, published by the United Nations, is a composite measure including life expectancy, educational attainment, and income level. It aims to measure not only incomes but life quality as well. From 1980 to 2020, the average value for Japan during that period was 0.8 points with a minimum of 0.7 points in 1980 and a maximum of 0.9 points in 2020.
Japan lags far behind other advanced countries in gender equality. Japan ranked 57 in 2009 in the Gender Empowerment Measure, or GEM, which approximate the extent to which women can participate in decision-making through political and economic activities. This is exemplified by the low percentage of women in management and administrative positions in Japan among OECD countries. The lack of gender empowerment is similarly seen in the gender wage gap. This current state of affairs is not all that befitting of advanced nations such as Japan. So the GEM in Japan in 2009, only a low percentage of women in Japan could participate in political and economic activities due to inequality because they were more in favor of men. And Japan is also one of the countries lagging behind in gender equality. In 2010, Human Development Report introduced the GII, which reflects gender-based inequalities in 3 dimensions: reproductive health, empowerment, and economic activity. Reproductive health is measured by maternal mortality and adolescents' birth rates. Empowerment is measured by the share of parliamentary seats held by women and attainment in secondary and higher education by each gender. And economic activity is measured by the labor market participation rate for women and men. In Japan, 14.5% of parliamentary seats held by women and 95.3% of adult women have reached at least secondary level of education compared to 92.3% of their counterparts.
Gross Domestic Income or GDI. In 2020, the gross domestic income GDI of Japan amounted to around 531.33 trillion Japanese yen. The gross domestic income measures the total income earned domestically by a country's economy in the production of goods and services, while the gross domestic product or GDP measures the value of goods and services produced within the country.
Poverty rate of Japan is 15.70% for the data year of 2018. For the percentage of people whose daily income falls below less than $10 per day is 2.49% and percentage of less than $5.50 per day is 1.21%. Japan poverty rate stands at 15.7% according to the latest figures from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The metric refers to people whose household income is less than half of the median of the entire population.